Good evening. I'd like to welcome everybody to our regular city council meeting for August 16th, 2021. We have a full house tonight, and I'm really excited that we have a lot of Canyon City's finest heroes here tonight, and I'm looking forward to being able to honor you soon. But before we do that, we need to have a roll call, please.
Councilmember Dennehy?
Here.
Councilmember Gonzalez?
Keep an eye for Councilmember Gonzalez because she is going to zoom in.
Absent. Councilmember Jaquez? Absent. Councilmember Reed? Absent. Councilmember Schmischer?
Present.
Councilmember B. Smith?
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Here.
Mayor Smith?
Here. And we will now have an invocation by David Swearingen from the Royal Gorge Vineyard. Please arise.
Jesus, I just thank you so much for just the privilege that it is to live in Canyon City, God. I thank you for the people that just make Canyon City run, and just our government, our law enforcement, and just all they do, and our firefighters and our medical staff, God. I just thank you so much for all of them, God. I just thank you that we're on the wind down from a really turbulent season, and I just pray for just prosperity to flow like the Arkansas River through Canyon City. In Jesus' name, amen.
Amen. Pledge of Allegiance. I
pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Do we have any announcements from our council members? I would like to give some reminders for our council members yourselves. We have coming up several important dates. One is September 15th. We just got an invitation today to the CML district meeting. This is a really good opportunity to network with our community as well as our CML representatives, Kevin Boomer and others. You can register through Cindy. You can also register with Cindy for Rural Philanthropy Days, and that is, if you can at least make it to the housing forum, that's September 21st. And we were wanting to talk a lot about affordable housing and how to obtain it, and incentives and tax opportunities and grants. And it turns out that that week that we're going to do it happens to be Rural Philanthropy Days, where they're bringing in all the experts across the state and the community all in one room for us to benefit from. So that'll be our meeting for that day. And also CML, which is the day after that. This Wednesday, we have Built for Zero that is going to be reporting on homelessness. We'll also have Chief Schick there and possibly some other of our officers to report on our state of homelessness in Canyon City and where we are at and where we are continuing to move forward. Let's move on to our recognitions and proclamations. Chief Schick, I'd like to invite you to address City Council, if you may. We have our Police Department Life Saving Award, Service Awards, and the K-9 program. And maybe if you can give some background information on the excellence that has been happening in Canyon City among our CCPD, then we'll read the proclamations.
Madam Mayor. If I could, I'd like to call up Sergeant Mall, Detective Gary, Officer Beck, Officer Nelson, and I don't know if Sergeant Miller is here. Come on up, guys. If you could just line up over here. Inside, yeah. Come on inside. Sergeant Miller's not back there hiding in the corner. Okay. All right, Madam Mayor, members of council, Mr. Stevens, Mr. Hoffman, citizens of Canyon City, it is with great honor and humility that I present these exemplary officers to you this evening. I want to share a story that speaks to the character and bravery and courage of these individuals that stand before you. For clarity, Webster defines character as the mental and moral qualities distinctive to an individual. Bravery, courageous behavior or character. Courage, a brave person, one who sees a dangerous situation and immediately reacts with little thought for themselves. On March 23rd, 2021, Canyon City PD received a 911 call that a man had been shot and an unknown offender fled with the victim's pickup truck. Then Detective Mall, now Sergeant Mall, recently been promoted, Detective Gary, Officers Beck and Nelson, and Sergeant Miller with the Fremont County Sheriff's Office, who's unable to be with us tonight, all became engaged in a dangerous vehicle pursuit wherein the suspect rammed and shot multiple police vehicles, placing these officers in grave risk of serious bodily injury or worse, death. I would like to show you videos and pictures of that, but that is all a matter for the courts, and we're unable to share those at this time. But it was significant to say the least. Each of these officers don their uniforms and stand in the path of chaos and destruction for the benefit of society each and every day. Continuing in this deadly game of cat and mouse, the suspect, after nearly fatally wounding a citizen earlier, continued to ram and shoot a firearm at these officers each. With their police vehicles damaged and barely operable, they stayed in the fight, ultimately apprehending this dangerous offender before he could harm any other citizens of Canyon City. For their actions to stop and apprehend this suspect in spite of the significant risk to themselves, Sergeant Mall, Detective Gary, Officers Beck and Nelson, and later Fremont County Sheriff's Office Sergeant Miller are all awarded the Canyon City Police Department Exemplary Service Medal.
Absolutely.
Yeah, we're going to issue their medals and citations.
Thank you very much. Let's go on down there so we can.
Show those beautiful awards. Those are amazing.
Yeah, first medals, there you go. Smile. Madam Mayor, as you can, and members of council, as you can imagine, an event as significant as this is a huge undertaking, to say the least, as we come behind and try to pick up and clean up and collect the necessary evidence to present these matters before court of law. In addition to these exemplary officers, there were a number of entities called upon to come and assist Canyon City in each of those endeavors, and they were, of course, additional members of the Canyon City Police Department, numerous members of the Fremont County Sheriff's Office, the Colorado State Patrol, the Florence Police Department, the Colorado Bureau of Investigations, supporting staff from AMR Ambulance Services, the Canyon City Fire Department, of course, our dispatchers at FreeCom, Kinder Kids Child Advocacy Center, and further agencies that came out to assist. We will be offering those individuals a unit citation for their efforts and support. We thank each of these individuals. It was for their actions that we're able to bring a dangerous individual to justice, and thankfully the shooting victim has survived. So I'd just like to thank them all again. Next, if I could have Officer Gary Wade come on up, Gary. Just right over here. There you go. Officer Wade's before us tonight because on June 14th of 2021, he responded to a report of an individual struggling in the Arkansas River. Officer Wade responded to the area, and Officer Nelson, who was up here earlier, helped to locate the individual. Officer Wade threw the individual a party line and was able to drag him towards the shore. When he got to near the shore, Officer Wade went into the water, threw this individual over his shoulders because the individual was too weak to walk, and he lifted him over his shoulder and he carried him onto the bank where fire department personnel and EMS awaited. Those personnel we interviewed later confirmed that without Officer Wade's actions that evening, this individual would have most certainly have drowned. For his quick actions, Officer Wade is presented with a life-saving award. The victim in this matter was not able to be located later. We certainly would have liked to have had him here to offer you some words, but again, he is a homeless individual and we have not been able to locate him. So we would like to recognize Officer Wade for his efforts of saving this individual's life this evening. Madam Mayor and Council, last but not least, Officer Owenby. Could I get you and your partner up here? He's still very active in retirement.
This is a pretty exciting night for Duke. Yeah.
Finally, the department would like to recognize K-9 Duke as he has entered into his retirement years as of May 1. Duke formally retired. He has served the citizens of Canyon City for a number of years. During his nearly 7 years of service, Will, he has been responsible for a number of sizable drug arrests, apprehensions of dangerous felons, and generating just goodwill within the community, and speaking out of turn.
He
I would
does
also
steal the
like
show.
to,
Yeah.
I would like to recognize Will for his continued service and dedication to the program. Aside from Duke retiring tonight, we wanted to bring Tier, our newest K-9, and introduce him to everybody, but Will says they don't ride in the same car well together. So we got Duke tonight to say goodbye. I think we have a picture of Tier for everybody to get a look at. Maybe. There he is. Tier is the department's newest member of the K-9 team. He's a young Belgian Malinois. He is still in training with Will. They are about a third of the way through the training, Will? Yeah, getting there. So I just wanted to take an opportunity to say goodbye to Duke and thank Duke for all of the service that he's provided to citizens of Canyon City. And welcome Tier, who we have exceeded our donations, our fundraising efforts for Tier. We quickly exceeded those. The goal was $20,000. We quickly exceeded that. We had one very generous anonymous donor in the community donate a single $10,000 check, which quickly took us to our goal, and we've exceeded that. So again, thanks to Will and Austin back here, who's hiding out of it.
One more person up here. Duke's original handler is actually here, Neil Sear.
Oh, really?
Because if it wasn't for him,
Where's Neil? Come on up, Neil. I guess you're the reason we have this fine pup. And he is a remarkable dog. Good to meet you, Neil. Come on up. So with that, I bid Duke farewell, although he still comes around the agency and comes into my office and steals treats. And we welcome Tier, and I would like to thank Neil and Will for beginning this program and continuing this program. Thank you. I would say his bark's worse than his bite, but his bite's probably worse. Madam Mayor, I just want to express my gratitude to council for their continued support of the Canyon City Police Department and encouraging us to come forward and present and have these award nights with all of you. It genuinely means a lot to us.
It's an honor to have you here and our CCPD here. We do back the blue in Canyon City, absolutely, and are so proud of you protecting the life and safety for Canyon City. It's one of the most important things we can do as servants to our community. I would like to offer a final round of applause for all of the family members and friends that are here that are supporting you. You're equal heroes in our books. Thank you. Keep up the great work. We sure appreciate you.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
It is time to move on to our consent agenda. Ryan, we'll turn that over to you, please.
Thank you, Madam Mayor, members of council. For the consent agenda, item 7A is to approve the minutes for the regular city council meeting on July 19th, August 2nd, the general government meeting on August 4th, and the vision committee meeting on July 21st. 7B authorizes the mayor to sign an amendment to a purchase and sale agreement for 316 Macon Avenue. 7C is to authorize the mayor to sign a special event agreement with Reverend Running for a trail race, and the event organizer, Jordan, is here to answer questions and present the race. 7D is the monthly budget summary for May of 2021, and 7E is to receive and file a list of bills.
All right, before we open up to questions, let's go ahead and invite Jordan up, and if you want to bring your team with you, we'd be happy to hear about the Revenant race.
I just want to begin by saying that it's kind of difficult to follow these incredible people who protect us and serve us each day. My name is Jordan Ricks. I am the owner of Revenant Running. I started the company in February. Before starting Revenant Running, I was one of the owners of Mad Moose Events, which is the third largest trail and ultra events company in the country. I was with them for 4 years, recently sold my portion back to my business partners, and wanted to remain closer to home, closer to my family. The proposal is straightforward. What I'm proposing is a 50K, 30K half marathon trail ultra that will begin in Centennial Park. We'll then access the Tunnel Trail and Fremont Peak Trail when that's completed. We'll be utilizing the Royal Gorge Mountain Park trail system, crossing the Royal Gorge Bridge for the 50K runners, and then following County Road 3, Temple Canyon Road to Temple Canyon Park, and then back to Centennial. The date for the event that I'm proposing is November 6th. And that's really about it. I mean, it's pretty straightforward. It's a simple event. I've spoken to the Royal Gorge Bridge. I've spoken to Donna Webb there on multiple occasions. I've met with her on multiple occasions. They're supportive of the event. I'm waiting for, of course, the Fremont Peak Trail to be completed before BLM issues their final permit. Otherwise, I'm ready to host the event.
How many runners do you anticipate participating?
At this point, it's going to be difficult. Most events are advertised 6 to 8 months in advance. I'm not sure when that trail will be finished. Certainly, if the trail's not finished and don't have a permit by September 15th, I won't be able to host the event. It's difficult to acquire all the gear and necessary resources to host the event, in which case I would want to host it 2022 and each following year. I would want to keep it at a maximum of 150. But at this point, there's no way that I would get 150 this close to the actual date of November 6th. From my experience, I think on such short notice, 50 to 75 runners for the inaugural event.
What kind of elevation gain do you think that would be for that race?
For the 50K, it's about 3,000 feet of elevation. By Colorado standards, of course, that's a very fast 50K. I'm hosting an event September 11th in Mueller State Park that's got 6,000 feet of elevation gain, which is probably the average for a 50K race. So it's a very fast event. The highest point is 7,100 feet. So for a Colorado event, it's simple, and it's fast.
And plenty of oxygen.
Plenty of oxygen, yeah, exactly.
Councilmember Schmischer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I have a couple of questions.
Sure.
Has Revenant Running put on any events heretofore?
No, the first event is September 11th. The company was started in February, but I've hosted maybe up to 75 events over the course of 4 years. I was doing about 25 a year for about 4 years. In the earlier years, it was a little bit less, but in 2019, we did 23 events, so.
Okay, thank you. What would your plan B be if there were inclement weather? November, as you know, if you're local to the Springs, can be kind of unpredictable.
It's trail and ultra running. Runners kind of expect inclement weather. My only concern really would be the conditions of the single track. I've hosted a number of events in Moab in pretty much every single month of the calendar year, and I've worked with the Trail Builders Association. There was the trail running representative on that board. I would have to speak with FAR about their concerns in regards to the maintenance of the trails. But in the past, I've just gone out and fixed the trails myself with business partners and those kind of things. But I wouldn't imagine that there would be much of an issue in regards to inclement weather. Certainly, we could bring the date forward, but I wouldn't be overly concerned for the single track.
Just to clarify,
Yeah.
so even if the trails were muddy, even if the single track was muddy, you would still push forward with the event and damage the trails?
I don't know that runners on the trails would damage the trails as long as they remained on the single track. They host trails in the state of Colorado year-round, during these kind of.
Sure.
Right.
We had a huge rainstorm just before our Whitewater Festival.
right.
So we moved our trail races from the trails to the Riverwalk to ensure that our single track didn't get damaged. So I just wanted to know if you had kind of thought through what the plan B was, because obviously we've invested a lot of time and money and local effort into those trails and wouldn't want to see them get hurt.
For sure. I'm not overly concerned about it. Certainly, we can bring the date forward if it was a significant concern. But I'm not sure that there's really a plan B. In Moab, where I've directed a number of races where, they've invested a lot of money into their trails as well, we had roads that we could access. Here, there would be no way to deviate the runners off of the single track to avoid doing any damage to the single track.
Okay.
Ryan Stephen, you wanted to.
Yeah, I was just going to ask Jordan, what kind of weather conditions would have you reschedule or cancel the event? Sleet and ice, dangerous running conditions?
I've canceled one event in 4 years in Colorado Springs. It was an April event, and they were whiteout conditions. That was the only circumstance in which we felt it was difficult for the runners to follow the course markings. We still did have a number of runners, kind of unofficially, run the event. Other than that, it would have to be dangerous conditions with the trails difficult to follow.
Thank you.
Yep.
So you have extreme athletes that participate in these races, it seems.
For sure. A 50K in Colorado is, by ultra standards, about as fast as it would be arguably the fastest 50K in the state of Colorado. I don't know that there's anything at lower elevation or on non-technical trails like the trails here in the Canyon City area. And so, yeah, a lot of the people that would run the races have run 100 milers, 200 milers. 50K in November would be for the most part, a training run for most of these people.
And I would suggest probably keeping close contact with FAR, because there could be some alternatives for a Plan B with
Okay.
some of our country and dirt roads that would still offer a challenging run.
For sure.
Did you have more questions, Councilmember Smisher?
Thank you so much, Madam Mayor. Just two more. One, you had mentioned that you had been in contact with the Royal Gorge Bridge. Have you also been in contact with the county about the county road access?
I have not personally been in contact with the county. Rex Brady, who I've been speaking with, told me that he would speak with them personally, and that if any additional contact was needed, he would let me know. And as of today, I haven't heard anything about needing to contact them directly.
Okay. And then just lastly, as Madam Mayor alluded to, and as you did as well, FAR is very active, and we have a lot of local races that require a lot of local volunteer support. Is that, do you envision also needing to tap into local volunteer support? Or given kind of your robust personal history with trails, do you imagine that you'll be able to meet your needs elsewhere?
Certainly, I won't have any problem gathering up the volunteers that would be needed. I have a strong base of volunteers and supporters in Colorado Springs and in Woodland Park, where I live. So certainly, I'd want to get to know some of the Canyon City runners a little bit better. Otherwise, I have, a base of support that would be able to come out and volunteer at these events without any concerns.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
Any other questions for Jordan? All right, well, it sounds like we need our sheep, is it the lambing season
Lambing
to wrap
season.
up? So as soon as we get the lambing season to wrap up, then we'll do our best to get Steve on the trails and finish it up for you to have a successful race here in Canyon City, and wish you the best.
Thank you.
I'll now entertain any other questions from the consent agenda. Councilmember Smisher.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I had a few of the typo variety. Oh, apologies. Question withdrawn. Thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. On the financials, one thing I'd like to point out to council is that so far in the sales and use tax category, we're about $670,000, $680,000 over what we expected to collect, and that's a good number to know that we're doing that. And then on the Stormwater Utility Fund, revenues and expenditures, are we keeping track of that? A bifurcated, accounting where we're tracking EPA required actions versus quantity related actions. There was some talk that our program was going to be able to track that for us.
Are you talking expenses?
So
I think
I think we have a mixture of both in each category, expense and revenues, don't we? Where we have revenues that are related to stormwater permit fees and revenues that are related to stormwater utility fees.
Correct. So I think what you're referring to is the my
Cartograph.
Cartograph, thank you. The cartograph system regarding tracking of maintenance utilities and things like that. And yes, we do track those maintenance utilities expenses. As far as breaking it out in the financials, I don't know that we have broken it out in the financials, but we could probably put together a non-financial report that has a little bit more of that information.
That would be pretty good. I think it's important information because as stormwater with our, potential $70 million,
Backlog.
is something that is going to be on citizens' minds, and being able to separate where we have an unfunded mandate that requires spending and fee collection versus our quantity issues would be good for our citizens. I have a couple other things. Ryan, do you know anything about the Junior Law Enforcement Academy, how that's working, or where we are with that?
I don't have an update for you, but I can get one for you.
That would be nice to hear. I would like to hear how we're doing with those guys. And I'm also, that's under the detail of the purchase card disbursements. And on page 4 of that report, we have a Jim's Tire Service. Oh, that's tires and flat repairs. That's just not flat repairs, that's also tires. Never mind. I don't have a question there. That's all. Thank you, Madam Mayor.
Thank you. Any other questions? I'd like to entertain the motion. Councilmember Smith.
Madam Mayor and Council, I move to approve the consent agenda as written.
Second?
There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion? I'll call a vote, please.
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Councilmember Schmisher?
Aye.
Councilmember B. Smith?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
Thank you, Council. Ryan, would you like to give our city administrator's report?
Yeah, you have a pretty full report, including revenues that Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick mentioned. In the future, those revenue reports will be showing up in your monthly financial statements, so those will be combined in the future. There is a report on expenses that moved line items that are under transfers that are under $5,000. We do have a pretty full agenda. I'd be happy to take any questions. A couple things before that are not in the report, or if they are, I want to make sure that we highlight them. As we do have the PD dedication to Chief Stefanik this Friday at 10. So if you'd like to attend, the community is welcome to attend as well. That, of course, will be at the Police Department building on Justice Center Road. And then we received a request for a letter of support today for the Hotel St. Cloud, who is applying for a state, the Colorado Community Revitalization Grant. Typically, those need to come before council for approval, but they have a deadline later this week. So if it's okay with council, I'd like to request that we have the mayor sign that letter of support and then ratify that at a later date.
So you just need a thumbs up tonight? Yes, well, thumbs up.
It's all right with council. I believe the deadline is this Wednesday, so very soon. But we're really excited for this opportunity. It could fill the gap for the Hotel St. Cloud, so it could be awesome. And also, Natural Grocers closed on the Jewett building as well.
They did.
So that's pretty exciting, too. Any other questions for Ryan?
So but I wanted to not let it pass without comment that I really do appreciate the non-audited financial summaries with the graphs. That really does help me understand where the city is in those different areas. Thank
Great.
you.
Yeah. Glad you appreciate it. Thank
Yeah, it
you.
was good to see those back in there and to see the revenues are up for 2021 for Canyon City. I would now like to open a public hearing. This is for item 9A, and this is the 2021 budget. A1, introduction and first reading by title only of ordinance 21 series of 2021 entitled, An Ordinance of the City of Canyon City, Colorado, appropriating additional sums of money to defray expenses in excess of amounts budgeted for the City of Canyon City, Colorado for the 2021 budget year. Corey, do we vote separately on each item, 1 and 2? Okay, so we'll start with this one. Thank you, Tammy, for being here.
Good evening, Madam Mayor and City Council. Before you is ordinance 21, Series 21, to amend the 2021 budget. There's a lot of 21s in there. For general fund, we are asking to increase our appropriations by $1,288,520. Of this, $318,032 are grant-eligible COVID recovery expenses. $372,334 to purchase police vehicles and the associated equipment, $155,600 to construct the sewer line on Water Street, $442,554 to cover general operating costs to include the implementation of Phase 1 of the compensation and classification study. And then also for costs that were budgeted in 2020 that ended up coming over into 2021 that were significant in one particular department. And then also to repair and replace vehicles and equipment that have been damaged in accidents this year. And we do have revenues to offset the majority of that. The adoption of the recommended appropriations will adjust the unassigned fund balance to $4,264,950. And that is actually slightly up from what our original budget was, just because we are anticipating additional revenues. In the Park Improvement Fund, we are asking for additional appropriations of $64,560. And this amount is going to be used to cover the appropriations for Phase 1 of the compensation and classification study, and then costs to repair or replace the vehicles and equipment damaged in the accidents. We did have a trailer that was damaged earlier in the year. That was a capital item that it was covered by insurance, but it was not budgeted, so we still do need to increase that budget, and that is included in that $64,000. In the museum donation fund, we are asking for appropriations of $16,577. Part of this is $300 to cover the costs associated with the Tilde mount. That was donations that we received. And then also $16,277 to cover the transfer from museum fund to the Quality of Life Fund for the matching grant funds for the Red House. The Quality of Life Fund, we're asking for appropriations of $768,000. $75,000 of that is for grant-funded property remediation expenses, $3,000 for additional costs associated with the Red House project, and then $690,000 for grant-funded State Highway 115 pedestrian improvements. Water Fund, we are asking for an additional $95,635 in appropriations to cover general operating costs related to the implementation of Phase 1 compensation and classification study. And lastly, we're asking for $57,800 in the Stormwater Utility Fund to cover general operational costs for the implementation of Phase 1 of the compensation and classification study, as well as increased fuel costs for the back truck. We also have higher personnel costs in stormwater than we anticipated because we were able to hire individuals in that had more experience when we did get that crew finally hired this year. And those are the appropriations that we're asking to be changed.
Any questions from the council for Tammy or staff? Is there anyone in the public that would like to address council on this matter? Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick.
So I note that in the bill itself, it says, whereas previously unappropriated resources from sales tax in the amount of $1 million are available. Is that an anticipated amount, or is that what we currently have?
That's an anticipated amount. As of June, we are already close to that, so we just want to make sure that we did get that in there.
Thank you for that.
Any further discussion? Then I would like to close the public hearing and call for a motion and a second on ordinance 21. Councilmember Dennehy.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to pass ordinance number 21, ordinance of 2020 on first reading.
Second.
There has been a motion and a second. Any discussion? I'll call a vote, please.
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Councilmember Schmischer?
Aye.
Councilmember B. Smith?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
Thank you, council. It passes unanimously on the first reading. I now will open the public hearing for item 9A2. This is introduction adoption by title only of Resolution 18, Series of 2021, entitled A Resolution of the City of Canyon City, Colorado, authorizing a transfer of budgeted funds within the 2021 budget of the City of Canyon City, Colorado. Tammy.
Mayor and City Council, before you, you have Resolution Number 18, Series of 2021. This resolution authorizes us to move funds in excess of $5,000 within the budget. The movement of the funds does not change any of the total appropriations. So even if we would not have had to amend our budget, these would have still come forward and have not required any additional appropriations. It is just moving the funds from one expense account to another.
Any questions from council? Tammy, I was a little bit curious because some of the descriptions for us as council members and probably the public are pretty vague, like other improvements, other water main projects, other self-insurance fees. And is there a possibility to have a little bit more details about some of these or to provide those?
Those are actually the account names, our general ledger account names, and so that's what was presented. On the other improvements, it's basically a capital line that we have multiple projects in, and so we've typically just listed other improvements. We were moving funds from that line to the MCC upgrade line, and so we wanted to identify that project separately, and the funds were originally somewhere else. But you know, I can provide more detail if you would like on each of those lines. I can send something out to council.
Thank you. I would like to invite the public to speak if they have anything to say in this hearing. If not, then I will close the public hearing and call for a motion. Councilmember Smith.
Madam Mayor and Council, I move to approve Resolution Number 18, Series of 2021.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion? Call a vote.
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Councilmember Schmisher?
Aye.
Councilmember B. Smith?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
The resolution has passed. Thank you, City Council. Thank you, Tammy and staff.
Thank you.
We're now on item 10A, and this is a donation request from the Colorado Mission of Mercy, otherwise known as COMOM. I'd like to invite Pam to address City Council, please.
Madam Mayor and council members, just thank you for allowing me to be here. COMOM was here in 2015, and your community was welcoming and supportive, and we were able to treat 1,200 patients in 2 days. And we're coming back. We're going to be here on September 24th and 25th, and we again expect to treat more than 1,000 patients. And on the other side of it, we're bringing 1,000 volunteers here. COMOM's a large-scale dental clinic, and mind you, we're going to be making modifications related to COVID. So we do expect to see 1,000 patients, but what I'd like to do is could we show the video, and then I can come back on the other side.
We're here at the Colorado Mission of Mercy. It's free dental care, no questions asked, first come, first serve, for people that have often been putting off their care in order to take care of their children. With the economic situation that we're dealing with, just putting food on the table, clothing on their kids, transportation to the job, or several jobs, there's no money left for dentistry. So they just suffer. Well, this is an opportunity to remove the suffering that these people have been with for years. That's what the Colorado Mission of Mercy is all about.
We don't make enough money to buy health insurance for our family, but we make too much money to get help with the state. My husband and I both work, and we both, pay bills and food and rent. So no money left to do anything else.
I guess self-esteem is the biggest problem for me, and work. I think it'll help both a great deal.
When you ain't got the front teeth that are all broken and whatnot, people tend to, whether they mean to or not, kind of shy away or what have you, because they think that you're, I don't know, maybe dirty or just poor. And there ain't nothing wrong with being either one, just it was our turn to get fixed. So I'm absolutely thankful that this place was here today. He's the best doctor I've ever had work on my mouth, ever. I have to honestly say that. It was in and done and finished like that.
I raised my daughter all by myself working 2 jobs, and she graduated CSU 3 years ago and works in Denver now. Sometimes it feels like all you do is work and you never get any benefit from it, just to pay your bills, because there's nothing left over. And I wasn't always in this position, but things happened, and I gave one of the dentists this morning, when he told me they would go ahead and fix my teeth, I gave him a hug and started crying. It's just like, the fact that you guys would just do this. Thank you so much. I'm overwhelmed and overjoyed.
The problem is that these people have care that needs to be met, but they don't have a dentist to go to, either because of lack of income or lack of knowledge about why they should go to the dentist. And that's part of what we do today. We're not only taking care of the problems, but we're trying to educate them as to how they can try and prevent those problems from coming back again.
What is overwhelming for me is that we have all of these dentists and dental students and all these professionals that say, you know what, we're going to try to make a difference and help as many people as we can help today.
We work for hugs, and we get a lot of hugs. There's a hug quotient that we have here, and it's very high. There's a lot of people that really appreciate and understand what we're doing for them.
The woman at the end was missing 5 of her top front teeth. And COMOM changes lives. A patient that I remember had been using Hobby Lobby clay so that at a distance it looked like he had teeth. And in your packet you had the man who said, I came in looking like a jack-o'-lantern, where he had spaces between his teeth. And he said, I can look for a job now. And we make a difference. When we were here in 2015, 44% of the individuals walking in the door were in pain. On average, they were in pain for 13 months. And 70% were in pain for more than a month. We do the cleanings, we do the extractions, we do root canals, and we do crowns and flippers, which are your front teeth, and dentures. We have people like Dave Smith, who is one of our site chairs. We have an incredible group of people as a site team. Let me answer your questions. What can I answer for you?
Well, first, Pam, for our public record, can we get the spelling of your last name?
D-I-N-K, F like Frank, E-L-T.
Thank you. And we're open to answer for questions. Councilmember Schmischer.
Thank you so much for the work that you do. It's so important, and I truly, truly believe and echo what you've said, that it does change lives. So just thank you for that. I did have a question just about who else you're targeting for donations. I noticed in the materials provided that a fair number, not the majority, but a fair number of folks in 2015 came from El Paso and Pueblo counties, and I was hoping that you were also reaching out to them as well as Fremont County to ensure that a maximum number of donations would be received to help support your mission.
Very much so. Delta Dental is among our largest funders, and we're a dental program. And another example is El Pomar, which is based out of Colorado Springs, donates. And there are other donations throughout the state. In combination with dental programs, health programs too. I do want to also give credit to St. Thomas More in the county of Fremont, who have donated for this clinic. And then while we're talking money, we are incredibly frugal. Our budget is $250,000, and it went up because of all the PPE we're having to purchase. But with absolute certainty, we will provide more than $1 million worth of care. We've shown that over the years consistently. And in your packet, you had the final report. And I do this with every single year. And so you're going to get a lot of bang for your buck. Any other questions?
Councilmember Smith.
I was just wondering if that video was available somewhere, like on the website, to where I could share that, and that way we can get some people out there.
Yes, yes, and thank you. I provided a box of cards, and what we've learned is we can pass out flyers, and that's nice, and it gives information. But we found these information cards, which if you put your phone up to it, it'll direct you right to the website. Potential patients will put it in their pockets. So what I'm asking you is pass those cards out.
You're not going to have a problem, because I have a barber shop, so I'm going to make sure that these are
Great.
available to
Great.
each and every person. Thank you.
Good.
Pam, I do have a question. In 2015, our records show that the City of Canyon City donated $500 to COMOM. And today you've made a special trip here to ask for $10,000. Can I get an explanation for why the increase?
Our expenses went up a lot due to COVID. And among the things COMOM did was, again, we're very frugal, and we had started acquiring PPE for the 2020 clinic that we had planned to have. Well, with the start of COVID, we went to storage and we pulled out all of our PPE and distributed it. And a boatload of it did go to the Denver area. But we made very, very sure that a lot came to Fremont County. And so, and it was able to be distributed to providers in the area. We use your money frugally.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick.
Something you just said kind of rang a bell with me. Administrator Stevens, do we have any COVID monies left that can also be used here?
Yeah, so what I was going to say is that we have about $5,700 left in the community agency funding that has not been allocated. We do have CARES Act money that is available that we could connect with Pam and COMOM and see what kind of COVID-related expenses we could fund from those accounts.
And that would be beyond the 10,000 that we're talking about tonight?
In addition to and potentially beyond.
And potentially beyond.
So, I mean, we technically have $5,700 available. Depending on what kind of motion the city council would like to make, we can increase that.
Yeah, there's the 5,700
With
in the
CARES
community
Act.
agency funding, and then if city council would like us to, coordinate as far as the CARES Act funding goes, we could see what else we can help out with as far as CARES Act money goes.
Councilmember Dennehy, did you want to make a suggestion?
No, I kind of looking at, and I like that question of what other funding is there available. I think this is a fantastic program. I think that it's something that is probably not shared enough and spoken about enough, and I commend you all for doing this. But one question I have, and this is just kind of a off-the-wall question with as patients come in, do you, I know that's all free, I understand that, but do you have a donation box there as well?
We haven't. We've thought about it.
I mean, I understand, and I would never want to do it where people feel obligated. I see that. That was just a curiosity question.
We haven't.
Okay.
And it's, the essence of COMOM is warmth and welcoming, and this is something we do for communities and individuals with open arms.
I understand that. Believe me, I've been on the end of Shriners Hospital, so I understand that immensely. So, but thank you.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
I just wanted to recognize that we've got Dr. Smith here in the audience who's supporting this effort. And I'm sure there's several people up here who are proud of the work that you're doing, perhaps one in particular, but.
I think I know that guy. I wasn't going to say anything, though, because I was going to wait till after the vote was done.
And to the dentist community, I know sometimes you guys aren't super excited, or people aren't super excited to come see you, but I just wanted to recognize that I love the dentist. Nothing makes me feel better about myself than when my teeth are clean.
I think it is important, Pam, and maybe to recognize that, I mean, Dr. Smith is here tonight, but you have an entire committee that has been working really, 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 really hard to pull this off.
Yes. We have a site team, and Dr. John Kearney is part of it, and Lisa Himes is also one of the members of the site team. But in addition, we have what we call our task force, and there's about 35 individuals across the state. And you have somebody that heads oral surgery. You have someone that heads patient registration, the person that does endo. We have pediatrics. And so we have a team from across the state that is working on this too.
And you're also accepting volunteers. So is that the same website where people can go in and register to volunteer? Yeah, comom.org. How many volunteers do you need?
Our goal is 1,000.
1,000. So we'd like to, advocate to our community to get in there and be a volunteer.
And there's plenty of lay tasks that people can do.
Yeah. You don't have to be certified or suck out the saliva. There's lots of other things you could do.
No.
All right, Councilmember Schmischer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I think you've heard from all of us of how supportive we are of you and your mission and how much we commend your efforts. I would encourage you to seek funding from other sources as well, such as the other county governments that whose citizens benefit from these services, because I think the more capital you have, obviously, the further the volunteer and the great work of local dentists will go. Thank you again.
And that's another point, is that, yes, we have our local dentists, but we have dentists from across the state that come and support your community.
All right, I think it's probably time for a motion to be made. I'd probably recommend from the sound of council of dedicating the $5,700 from our agency funding and matching with Colorado CARES Act if we can find the COVID PPP type expenses that would qualify.
Madam Mayor, on that, I would note that the county is donating $10,000. And I would also note that I know that of at least one service club, the Rotary Club, that is donating a similar amount. And so,
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion. I'd like to move that we allocate the $5,700 in the community agency funding and also charge Administrator Stevens with further exploring possibilities of CARES Act funding.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any more discussion?
The one thing, yeah, the only thing I'd like to discuss is, as we say, how much more for CARES funding act money, we got to try to probably put a number on that to say, you know, what are we looking at as far as CARES funding money to continue on, or is that an open check? I would say that we just retrieve the balance of $4,300 to get that to the 10,000, or, John?
I would just note that if we have CARES Act money that's going to go unused, that we try to get as much as we can.
Okay, then I agree with that then, absolutely.
And we can keep that in line with some similar funding requests that we've received from the community for nonprofits.
Right. Yeah, I think within responsible nature, knowing that we have lots of other opportunities and needs in our community still that have COVID-related expenses, especially other conventions that are coming to Canyon City in the near future. So there has been a motion and a second. We did have discussion anymore? Then I'll call a vote, please.
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Councilmember Schmisher?
Aye.
Councilmember B. Smith?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
Thank you, council. Thank you, Pam, for being here tonight, and Dr. Smith, and for your hard work to change the smiles and take care of the needs of our communities. We are now on to item 10B, and this is introduction and adoption by title only of Resolution 17, Series of 2020, entitled, "A Resolution Adopting the Multifamily Housing Development Incentive Program." Ryan.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Back at the end of June, we had a vision committee meeting regarding multi-units, water taps, and the building permit fee. And at that point, was looking for guidance on how to bring an incentive program forward. This resolution is the culmination of that particular meeting and the feedback I received from City Council. This incentive is for 40% discount on the building permit fee for multifamily developments over 20 units. And then the second part of this is an incentive for the tap fee for multifamily units to be calculated by taking our 3/4 inch rate, the full cost of the 3/4 inch rate for the first unit, and then 50% of the 3/4 inch rate for each additional unit, or the size of the tap fee, whichever is greater. As an example, if there were a 20-unit apartment complex, today the tap fee for that, you take 20 units times the $5,000 per 3/4 inch tap, so that tap fee would be $100,000. Not knowing specifically what the engineering would say on the size of the tap, but assuming a 2-inch water tap, the tap fee is $26,000, $651, so the greater of those two would be $100,000. Assuming it's a 3-inch tap, the cost of a 3-inch tap is $53,354. Given those two costs, the $100,000 would prevail. Under this incentive program, The unit calculation for the taps would be $52,500. So in this particular instance, it would be, for the 2-inch tap, the cost would be $52,500. In the example of a 3-inch tap, that 3-inch rate would prevail, and that would be $53,354. So you can see that it is saving money as far as the development goes. The length of this, it starts September 1st for a period of 2 years, so we can evaluate it. During that time, I would expect that we probably need to do another rate study and potentially looking at tap fees over that course of 2 years. And there may be a permanent change at the end, but during this time, it is a good example and an incentive to show that we are serious about trying to find multifamily developers. It gives Rick another tool in his toolbox when he's out there recruiting businesses and developers to come and build, and when we're hosting developers to be able to show that we're being proactive about trying to get development done in the community, especially for the missing middle types of housing. With that, I'm happy to take any questions.
Rick, do you have anything that you would like to add to the report?
Sure. Nothing elaborate beyond this, but I would also like to mention that there are also grant funding opportunities that can be used to support the financing stack of an apartment building that are contingent on a community making incentive changes like this. We were looking at one this week that gives communities an opportunity if they've made in excess of 3 incentive changes, and we're going through this form right now to determine where we are on that. But this change fits perfectly into that incentive package, so to speak. So we will be having a conversation soon with a company interested in doing a low-income housing tax credit project here, and this will be part of that conversation for sure. This is one of the first things he actually asked about, were these very incentives. So this is a great step in the right direction.
Is the grant opportunities for the city or for developers?
City.
Like what?
I don't know I don't remember the amounts, and I didn't bring it with me. I apologize for that, but it's an incentive. It's a funding opportunity for community local governments, but not housing authorities, not council of governments. It gives us as a community an opportunity to be a stakeholder, pretty much, be part of that financial stack. It can be done in cooperation with housing authorities or the council of governments, but it is definitely not for them. It is definitely for the community to use. So we're looking at the rest of those incentives that they're talking about. We've got a number of them. Simplifying our processes, our code. That's another one. Patrick and I have talked about that. We're making a lot of steps to be able to do this type of thing, because it's a huge need. It's obviously a huge need, and the state recognizes that.
Thank you, Rick.
Sure.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
And I'd just add to that hopefully that once the Unified Development Code passes, that could be considered one of the.
It is.
Great.
There are parts of it for sure that we think are anyway.
Councilmember Schmischer.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. I'd just like to commend Administrator Stevens and Economic Development Director and our city planner for all of the hard work and research that's gone into this. I think that it is a testament of how much we are seeking new solutions when it comes to attainable housing, and just appreciate all of the hard work and dedication and commitment that went into resolution number 17. And I would also love to make a motion unless there's further discussion.
We do have.
I'll be quick.
Okay.
I'll be quick. I just wanted to echo exactly. She stole, Councilmember Schmischer stole the words right out of my mouth. I think this is great. Anything that we can get to incentivize development is always number one in my book. It's something that we as council members hear over and over and over again. When are we going to build this, and this? especially multifamily, seems to be exactly what we need right now. So I really appreciate all the hard work, because this makes our life as council members a lot easier when we can talk about incentives for development. Thank you.
Well, this makes our lives a lot easier as well, and we're hearing about it from the developers. Natural Grocers is one of them. They're obviously not a multifamily housing place, but they recognize the effort that's going into making their lives easier coming here. And we've had a number of conversations recently with other people about that. So thank you. Appreciate that.
And I would just like to say that when we were looking at the numbers for creating a better atmosphere for multi-family housing, that it really became quickly apparent that our water tap fees were a real sore thumb. It was really obvious that this was something that needed to be taken care of. It wasn't like they were just, competitive, but we want to make it better. They were actually putting us at a disadvantage, and so now we're
Right.
correcting that.
Well, we do compete with other communities, but, within 1 week of starting this position, I had a housing developer or somebody who wanted to create a housing development asking me about tap fees and literally complaining about them to me. So
This needed to be addressed.
it's needed to
so
be addressed.
Thank goodness it's here. I'm really excited for it. Segue to Councilmember Schmischer. Let's get a motion.
Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion that we approve Resolution Number 17, Series of 2021.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion? All right, let's call a vote.
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Councilmember Schmischer?
Aye.
Councilmember B. Smith?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
All right, thank you, council. Thank you, Rick, and thank you, Ryan, so much. We really appreciate it. We are now moving on to item number 10C, and this is adoption of the new Unified Development Code. This is something we've been working on for a really long time. I would like to recognize Jackie Wells and Ruben Shell that are here with us tonight via Zoom. We're going to start with, go ahead.
Yeah, you mentioned that we've been working on it for a really long time. There was some email going around on the city manager listserv earlier this week, and there's one community that is out there in the state that has spent the last 4 years doing their comprehensive plan update and their code update. So again, just to reiterate how much work has gone into doing this in the last 13, 14 months. It's been a very large task, and Patrick being the point from the city on this part, and Jackie being the point for House O'Levine, we appreciate all the hard work that they put in to make this happen in that time frame.
And even though we crunched 4 years of work within 14 months, it wasn't sloppy work. It was dedicated, hard work, lots of extra meetings, and House Levine really stepped up to the plate, and the product has been really high quality. So thank you.
Well, staff is certainly very pleased with it. We hope council is pleased with it. Planning Commission has indicated they're pleased with it. So this evening you have 2 items before you associated with the adoption of the new Unified Development Code. First one is the second reading of the ordinance to formally adopt the code and repeal not only the current Title 17, but also portions of Title 16 and 18, with an effective date for the new code to be September 1st, 2021. We are also asking for adoption of Resolution 19 of 2021. This is the readoption of our fee schedule with references to the new code sections for all of the various land use application types. We have not made any modifications to the application fees. They have not changed. We think it's probably appropriate at some point in the future to have a conversation about whether or not we want to change those. But rather than overcooking this right now, we thought let's keep the fees the same, and if we need to have a conversation, we can maybe do that at the start of 2022. But in any event, Jackie is here to present PowerPoint that will describe some of the changes that have taken place between first reading on the 2nd and the version that's here before you this evening. I hope you all got the red line versions that I sent out last week so you could actually see the red line in addition to the clean version that was attached to the ordinance. And with that, Jackie, over to you.
Thank you so much, Patrick, and thank you all so much for this great process. It's really been like City Administrator Ryan said, a fast process and one that's gone really smoothly. And I really thank all of you so much for your dedication to, reading all the code sections, providing really quality feedback. It's been a really great collaboration and coordination. So I thank you so much for that. So now tonight, we're here just to review the changes that we've made since the first reading. So we're going to start off with the changes that we made to the whole UDC, some of those more high-level cleanup items, and then go into more detail on those substantive changes that were made to just a couple of the chapters. So first, for our UDC-wide changes, this is the cleanup, right? So the correction of any spelling or grammatical errors, ensuring that all of the styles of the way we've listed uses are all in sentence case rather than some being in sentence case and some being in title case. We've revised all of our listed provisions so that they end in commas rather than semicolons, et cetera, et cetera. I won't read through this whole list, but that's the gist of the kind of revision that we are talking about here, the real cleanup items that were made throughout the code to ensure we really have a finalized product. So then moving into our substantive changes, you all are very familiar with our UDC structure. Just bringing it up to show you which chapters actually had some substantive changes made to them. So starting with chapter 3, the standard district specific standards. So these revisions were made mainly to our bulk and dimensional standards table and to our permitted uses table. So our first change was to add a footnote about the lot width requirements for the 40-foot access to the street provision. We removed an illustration or a portion of an illustration illustrating building height so that we were no longer including mansard roof types, one, because that's not a very common roof type in the community, but also because the two-dimensional nature of the graphic was making it a little confusing as to whether the height of the windows or the height of the roof was being measured in that photo. So we just took that one out. We edited what would be allowed to project into the required rear yard to also include ADA ramps. We've removed commercial greenhouses as a special use in the R1A, mainly because the lot sizes in the R1A district are too small to accommodate or to be compatible with a commercial greenhouse type of use. And then we added backyard chickens as a permitted use in the RL and the R1 districts. So continuing on in chapter 3, we revised the mobile home and recreational vehicle parking use, rear use permit. So it is a P in the table rather than a T. We also included use-specific standards to allow the mobile home and recreational vehicle parking only if there's an active building permit on site. So it's more of a construction trailer and not a permanent residence. We've differentiated titles for training facilities, type 1 and type 2, to help clarify the distinction between the two. We've removed recyclables and donation collection stations from the CB district and added food carts and trucks as temporary uses in the business park district. Moving into chapter 5, the use-specific standards, we revised provisions restricting curb cut frequency, movement, and width split provisions into two different sentences just to help clarify what the regulation is. We combined bed and breakfast standards. So we had one sentence that required that the owner reside on site and another that said the owner was required to live in either the principal or accessory building. So we combined and really clarified the two so they weren't in conflict with one another. We clarified the provision limiting the length of stay for guests in rooming or boarding houses to 30 days. And clarified the restriction for yard sales from 48 hours to 2 consecutive days so that it was more clear with the hours of operation, that it's not 48 consecutive hours, but 2 days within those permitted hours of operation. Moving into chapter 6, development standards, we revised some typos that had to do with the installation and maintenance of landscape areas, helped to clarify, was depicting bicycle parking. I had the wrong reference, so we just cleaned that up. So Chapter 8, the plan development standards and procedures, we included a requirement for the zoning administrator plan development report to be forwarded to the applicant, at least similar thing for our major subdivisions, to require, again, that zoning administrator report be delivered at least 10 days before the hearing. So they have ample time to review and ensure their presentation addresses all of the issues or items discussed in that report. Moving into Chapter 10, zoning standards and procedures. We revised a provision regarding when site plan review is required. So currently, there's a sentence that describes, what the site plan review process is required for, what it's applicable to, and then it has a following list with all of the instances where that would be required. And one of those listed items was that single-family and two-family dwellings were exempted. So instead of having that be one of the listed items, we moved that up to the sentence describing when site plan review would be applicable, just to help clarify that single-family and two-family dwellings are not required to go through the site plan review process. We also clarified the provision requiring the installation of improvements required by the UDC as a condition of approval to both. So you are required to install the improvements as required by the UDC and as a condition that the City Council or Planning Commission may place on the approval. Then last but not least, Chapter 13, definitions. We deleted the definition of art, edited the definition of best management practice for clarity, and then to also provide materials recovery facility definition, processing or receiving recyclable materials before it had just said recyclables. And that is it for the major substantive changes to the code. I want to open it up to you all for questions, and then, yeah, just excited to hear some questions.
Councilmember Smisher?
Thank you, Madam Mayor. First of all, I just, again, like to thank you guys for your hard work and also your patience with me since I joined this process midway through, and I know I had a lot of questions and thoughts and ideas. So just thank you for your patience and your good nature as we went through those. I just have one question that I was still hoping to get a little bit of clarity on. In Chapter 5, under accessory building, the first provision is that only one accessory building shall be permitted per lot. I don't believe that there's a definition of accessory building in Chapter 13, so I was hoping to just get a better understanding of what we mean by that and ensure that we aren't being overly restrictive as a policy matter, given that we have a number of larger lots within the city of Canyon City that would have a house and more than one accessory building in common layperson's term. So I was just hoping we could have a little bit more clarity on what accessory building means.
Yes, of course. And thank you so much for your really thorough review of the document. We know you came in sort of at the tail end of the project, and there was a lot to review, a lot to go through, and really appreciate all of that time you took to do so. We know it's not the most engaging reading material. But for the question, the accessory building, that would be an accessory building such as a garage that would require a building permit to construct. So we also have accessory structures that are regulated separately. So that would be things like a shed or a patio or a deck, those items that wouldn't require the building permit. So we're not totally restricting, just to one accessory item in the rear yard or in the yard itself. But really just those larger, more permanent accessory buildings are what are restricted to one per lot.
Thank you so much for that clarification. I'm not suggesting any change at this point, but I recognize that as we've all noted many times throughout this process, throughout the first year or so, there will likely be a number of issues. And I may just add to the list, define accessory building in the definition section.
Duly noted.
Thank you so much for that clarification. That makes perfect sense, Jackie.
And let's say, you did a fine-tooth comb through this, Council. This is pretty impressive, yeah. So thank you for your time on all of that. It's been pretty amazing. Any other questions?
I just have a quick comment. Obviously, we appreciate all the hard work by staff and House Levine, but I just wanted to say thank you to Councilmember Smisher and Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick. I've read this thing 16 times, and I cannot find the errors that you guys pick up. So I appreciate your fine-tooth comb, as Mayor Smith said, attention to detail, because I can't pick those little things out like you guys can. So I appreciate that.
That's why it takes a whole council. We all offer something, other unique talents. So you filled Jim Meisner's shoes well, Councilmember Swisher.
Thank you, that really means a lot.
If there's no further discussion, I would be really excited to repeal that Frankenstein code and adopt a clean, streamlined code that welcomes new development to come into Canyon City with ease. By passing this ordinance on the second reading, we are proving that we are making further steps to becoming substantially more business-friendly in Canyon City. So this is a pretty big day.
And Mayor, I would just ask that whoever makes the motion for approval on second reading does so as amended under our charter, since there have been amendments made between first and second reading.
Thank you for that. I feel like we're going to need a standing ovation after this, even though there's not very many people left in the audience. All right, I would like to entertain a motion as amended. Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Mayor and Council, I move that we approve a bill for ordinance number 20, series of 2021, as amended on second reading.
Second.
There has been a motion and a double second. Any discussion? We'll call a vote, please.
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Councilmember Schmisher?
Aye.
Councilmember B. Smith?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
Well done, congratulations to the city of Canyon City.
And Resolution 19 as well, we need that passed.
Yes, we will, but let's take a moment. We need this moment. This is pretty awesome. It's been a lot of hard work coming, and really is a big achievement towards our goals as a city council and staff. All right, so that is time for introduction, adoption by title only of Resolution 19, series of 2021, entitled "A Resolution of the City of Canyon City, Colorado Establishing Fees Related to Land Use Applications." Do you have anything else you'd like to add besides that it's still the same?
The fees have not changed. I think if council is amenable, we can revisit these fees sometime in the new year, but we felt it was important not to overcook the adoption of the code with the adoption of new fees at the same time.
We appreciate that. Is there a motion? Councilmember Smith.
Madam Mayor and Council, I move to approve Resolution 19, series of 2021.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion? Call a vote.
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Councilmember Schmisher?
Aye.
Councilmember B. Smith?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
Passes unanimously. Thank you again. Thank you, House of Levine, for being here yet again.
Thank you
We're
so much.
happy. I see those smiles
Everyone
on
have a
your
great
faces,
evening.
too. We are going to move on. We still have two more items left on our agenda before we go to executive session. Item D, second reading and adoption by title only of ordinance 22, series of 2021, entitled "An Ordinance of the City of Canyon City Approving a Cable Franchise Agreement with Spectrum Pacific West LLC, locally known as Charter Communications." Ryan Stevens.
And at the last city council meeting, we had this tabled for feedback to come back and revisit the franchise fee. We did put two packets, or two alternates in the packet, one at 3.5% for a franchise fee, which is cost neutral to the customer, and then there's a second one for 3.75, which covers the additional cost to transfer the high definition feed for the city. So we provided both options, and Elijah's here to answer any questions, but it would be up to City Council to choose how you'd like to move forward.
Elijah, would you like to make any comments?
No, I'd just like to say that's a pretty good summary of it. We did have the two different alternatives in tonight's packet. The 3.5 is cost neutral for any charter consumers, within reason. Of course, you can't get perfect with a percentage versus a flat fee. So 3.5 would actually probably be cheaper for a lot of customers. The 3.75 is cost neutral for the city with our increased expenditure, just like you said, so.
Thank you, Elijah. And I'm just really enjoying making you talk behind the mic instead of
Yeah.
telling us to speak up or turn ours on.
Well, thank you.
All right, so as far as city council goes, I think that the question is, do we want to do the 3.5 or the 3.75? And I was not here for the last discussion, so I don't know where the mood is. Brandon, did you press your button? Okay. Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
So in our summary of the bill, it says the 3.5% franchise fee version of the agreement would closely maintain a neutral cost for charter cable subscribers. The 3.75% franchise fee version is closer to a cost-neutral agreement than the 3.5, is that correct? Is that what that's being compared to?
Then the 3.5, yes. So
And-
3.5 is cost neutral for the charter consumer. 3.75 covers the additional costs for the city. So that would keep our budget fairly neutral.
And it's a cost saving, and it's a cost savings above the original 4% that was suggested.
Correct.
So our two options are cost neutral for the city or cost neutral for the consumer.
Correct.
Thank you.
Would anyone like to make a motion for one or the other? Corey?
And once again, either way, the motion should indicate as amended, because this is second reading, and we're changing it either way from what was on first reading.
Elijah, do you have a recommendation for council?
So I would recommend that you strongly consider the 3.75. Reason being, any increase in cost that we experience for operating the public access channel would impact the general fund from other sources. The increased percentage on this PEG fee, I'm sorry, not the PEG fee, the franchise fee, would offset that cost. So we would not have to dip into other city funds to pay for that transport.
Councilman, oh, go ahead. Brennan.
Just one other note is that these calculations are based off of today's numbers. And we have continually seen that the charter subscriptions have decreased year over year. So we do anticipate over time that even with the 3.5%, the city's going to end up having to incur and absorb some of those additional costs over the 7-year life and potentially a 12-year life of the overall franchise fee or franchise agreement.
That would be an interesting future discussion on how to promote our meetings when people are not doing charter or cable television anymore. Councilmember Schmischer.
Thanks so much for your continued work on this. I know that it's come before council a number of times at this point. I guess my question is, in reading the portion about how the 3.75 franchise fee is cost neutral for the city, is my understanding correct that the city is choosing to increase its operating expenses by moving from standard to high def? I mean, this is not something that charter is forcing upon us. This is a choice because we believe it would be a benefit to our consumers. I just want to make sure I'm understanding that correctly.
Yeah, it is a choice, and maybe Elijah, I don't know if you want to talk a little bit more about that, but over time, we're seeing a degradation of the standard definition channel and moving to that high definition channel to make sure that there's a clear picture and clear messages going forward. It's not being forced by charter, but you know, if you look at the quality of signal, it's an obvious choice to continue to move forward to make those improvements.
And also to expand on that point, we do have some aged equipment that is sending that signal to the charter head end. Unfortunately, if that equipment goes down on us, we do not have an option to replace it with the same model. Everything that they do now is high definition with new equipment. So without upgrading, we run the risk of losing our service.
So, in other words, we're being forced through obsolescence.
Yeah, essentially.
Thank you for that clarification. From my perspective, at least, I would be in favor of the cost neutral for the consumer. I think that we could find, since we are choosing to upgrade the quality, and I don't disagree that that is an excellent choice to ensure that it is of a high quality and is not scheduled for obsolescence anytime soon, that we could find that additional funding within the city operating expenses if we believe that it is of such a value to our consumers. So personally, I would support the cost neutral for the consumer rather than increasing fees without their explicit consent. Thank you.
Councilmember Smith.
Just for the record, if we chose the 3.75, what is the portion of that goes to the consumer, to the customer?
So they are currently imposed a 3% franchise fee, as well as a 50-cent PEG fee. So a 0.75% increase if you had a $100 bill monthly would look like 75 cents. With the reduction of the 50-cent PEG fee, 25 cents per month per customer. And of course, it varies based on subscriber level, but.
Well, I just wanted to get that clarification on the record because we want people that are watching now to see that, because I don't really have an opinion. I voted for it on first reading. There were some other council members that had an issue with it, so I would like to have them, speak on it more than.
Yeah. And also, for the record, the increased fee that would be imposed on charter customers by this, they would be the ones benefiting from the service that we provide. It's not imposed on anybody who would not receive our services, so that's another consideration as well.
And one other just clarification, I think it's clear through the charter franchise agreement, but I just want to put that on record, is that this is only for the cable television fees. This fee is not imposed on internet services.
I think it'd probably be prudent to hear from both Councilmember Dennehy and Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick as well.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. Looking at the numbers, I do like the numbers. I do agree with Councilwoman Schmisser about the 3.5, but I also see the need to have that little bit of extra for the city as we look into gaining and going to the new, becoming updated. And so my personal opinion is, as much as I like the 3.5, but to maintain for our city, because regardless, we know that money's going to come ultimately from the consumer. I mean, the city does not generate money on its own. So personally, I'm in favor of the 3.75 franchise fee.
Thank you, Madam Mayor. And there's perhaps a different way to look at that. There are a couple of different things. Number one, I heard that we expect our costs to increase over the years, the term of this contract, which is 12 years?
It's a 7-year contract
7
with a 5-year renewal.
5-year renewal. And so it is likely that if we went with the 3.5, we would still be seeing higher city costs as we move through the contract. The other way to look at this is that, picking up on something that Councilman Dennehy said, is that whether the money comes from the traditional revenue sources for the city or through a direct tax on the people that use the service, it still comes from our citizens. And so, having said that, I would think I would be actually lean towards the 3.75% version of the fee. Recognizing the great virtue in maintaining revenue neutrality for our citizens. Nonetheless, this is somewhat of a special case where we have people using a service that pay for that service and then receive a benefit from the city along with those fees.
Kind of similar to our city campground, those who stay overnight at our campground pay a fee to maintain the bathroom, make sure that it's clean and that it's maintained well. So those that use the service pay for the service.
Well,
And not all of the taxpayers pay for a private service or for just those customers who use that business.
And, you know, 7 years, I mean, I don't know how many people still have cable. It seems like everything is still it's so streamed now, including when I watch council meetings I usually watch them on YouTube or social media. So I just don't know how many people this actually affects. If it's just cable service and not internet.
It is just the cable service.
It is just the cable service.
Yeah, and I think, as far as communications to the public and our citizens and constituents, there's a certain demographic that, relies more on the cable and satellite service than internet or Facebook Live and things like that. So this maintains that line of communication.
Does that demographic have high definition?
That's a good question. I do not know the answer to that question, but as Elijah said, a lot of the standard definition stuff is getting phased out.
Yeah, it is becoming obsolete. I think it's probably time to make a motion. Councilmember Dennehy?
I'll be honest, I think it's still about why I want to go on this, so.
Just remember that it'll be as amended.
I do. Madam Mayor, I'd like to make a motion to pass ordinance number 22, series of 2021, to adopt a 3.75 franchise fee as amended.
Very well done.
Second.
There has been a motion and a second. Any discussion? Call a vote, please.
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Councilmember Schmisher?
Aye.
Councilmember B. Smith?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
All right, thank you very much, council, and Elijah as well. It's a pleasure having you here.
Absolutely. I just want to say thank you to you guys. I know it's been a process, and Administrator Stevens and the attorneys as well were heavily involved. And also, I want to put on record a thank you to John Lee and the folks over at Charter as well. So, thanks
Thank
again.
Item E, introduction and first reading by title only of ordinance 23, series of 2021, entitled An Ordinance of the City of Canyon City, Colorado, vacating a portion of the alley in Block 22, Fruitmere subdivision within the city of Canyon City, Colorado.
She's stayed late, so let's have a report from Kim Swearingen.
Thank you, Kim.
Thank you, Ryan, Madam Mayor, and City Council. I appreciate you having me this evening. Approximately in the middle of June of this year, we received a request through our community development process to vacate an alley in Block 22 of the Fruitmere subdivision. During the community development process, we determined and we had heard from all stakeholders that there was no request or need for this alleyway. There are no utilities, there are no parks, there is no stormwater, there is no need, no current need. So the alley is currently bisecting a mobile home park, and they would like to sell both portions of their property on either side of the alley. So they would like to vacate this alley as they will be selling it in its entirety. You can see it from the map and from the surveyor's exhibit that they currently have homes across the alley. I cannot speak to why this happened in the past. I only know that it does exist. So since this is of no concern when it comes to utilities or any other activity of the city, and we do not anticipate any future need for this alleyway, I recommend that we vacate it. And now I stand for questions.
Thank you. Any questions from council? Seems pretty thorough and standard. Would like to entertain a motion if you desire. Councilmember Smith.
Madam Mayor and Council, I move to approve ordinance 23, series of 2021. Is it a first reading? On first reading.
Second.
There's been a motion and a second. Any discussion? Call vote.
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Councilmember Schmisher?
Aye.
Councilmember B. Smith?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
Thank you, council. Thank you, Kim. And we are now going to call to go into an executive session. I do have the script. And once that executive session is voted to go into, we will have to ask the public to leave as we're getting advice from our attorneys. Thank you for your attendance today. Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Madam Mayor, I move that the city council enter into executive sessions for the following purposes. Executive session to receive legal advice on specific legal questions pursuant to CRS 26-6-4024B concerning options for providing electric power to the city.
Second.
And just one clarification, it's 24-6. I'm not sure.
Did I muss that up? 24-6.
Yes.
All right.
I have a motion and a second.
Yeah, we need a motion and a second.
You got it?
We got it.
We got it.
All right, any discussion? Call vote.
Councilmember Dennehy?
Aye.
Councilmember Schmisher?
Aye.
Councilmember B. Smith?
Aye.
Mayor Pro Tem Hamrick?
Aye.
All right, thank you, council. We will now move into executive session.